The scene opens with Karoline Leavitt walking into a large, bustling conference room. The light from the windows filters through the space, highlighting the rows of journalists eagerly awaiting her speech. Karoline is a rising star in her political party, known for her calm demeanor, persuasive speeches, and charisma. As she takes the stage, her heart beats a little faster, not from nerves, but from the weight of her responsibility. Karoline begins with a well-crafted speech about unity and bridging the divide in the current political climate. Her words seem calculated to appeal to the most fundamental hopes of the audience, Americans from both sides of the aisle, all yearning for healing in a divided nation. As she speaks, the camera flashes in her direction, the murmurs of the press filling the air, but she remains focused. She knows the words are important, but what follows is more critical. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the room, sharp and unyielding. "Ms. Leavitt," a reporter calls out, her tone firm but questioning. "You talk about unity, but don't your policies promote division? How can you claim to be a unifier when your actions speak otherwise?" The voice belongs to Emma Sinclair, a well-known liberal reporter who has made a name for herself as a fierce truth seeker. She has been following Karoline for some time, but this is the first time their worlds will collide so directly. The question is pointed, and everyone can feel the tension in the air. Karoline doesn't falter. She answers with grace, emphasizing that unity comes from dialogue and compromise. However, Emma presses further, challenging Karoline on specific policies, accusing her of hypocrisy, and pointing out her party's controversial stances. The exchange becomes increasingly heated, and the rest of the room watches in rapt attention. The air is thick with the anticipation of where this will go. Karoline tries to keep her composure. As a politician, she's been trained to handle difficult questions, but Emma's persistence is different. She doesn't just ask questions. She digs into the marrow of Karoline's policies, almost daring her to give a satisfactory answer. Each question she asks feels like an accusation, pointed, sharp, and deliberate. Are you part of the system that's dividing the nation? Are you not complicit in this mess? Emma's voice is unwavering. She stands tall in the crowd, her eyes fixed on Karoline, waiting for a response that will either vindicate her or doom her. The pressure mounts. Karoline feels the eyes of everyone in the room on her, but she forces herself to stay calm. Her response is measured, defending her position without resorting to defensiveness. The political game is not about showing weakness, after all, but Emma is relentless. How do you expect to heal this country when your own party promotes policies that hurt the very people you claim to want to help? Karoline senses something deeper in the question, something beyond just a journalist doing her job. Emma is speaking with a passion that seems almost personal, as if she's fighting for something more than just a story. There's a quiet realization inside Karoline's mind. Emma is no ordinary reporter. She's someone with a purpose, someone who believes in a cause. Karoline knows she can't answer every question. She can't fix everything in this moment. So she ends the exchange with a smile, thanking Emma for the hard-hitting questions, and moves on. But something inside her stirs. She can't ignore the fire in Emma's eyes, the truth that she seems to hold in her words. In the days following the press conference, Karoline's team contacted her with the feedback, both positive and negative. Her opponents claimed she was evasive, while her supporters praised her poise. But Karoline can't stop thinking about Emma's questions. She does something unexpected. She reaches out to Emma. Emma's voice is surprised when she picks up the phone. "Ms. Leavitt," she says cautiously, "is something wrong?" Karoline, hesitant but determined, responds, "I think we need to talk. I don't agree with everything you asked, but I think there's more to your questions than just criticism. Can we meet?" Emma agrees, and the two set up a meeting at a small, quiet cafe. The air between them is thick with unspoken tension when they sit across from each other, sipping coffee. Karoline's eyes study Emma. She's not just a reporter. She's someone who has deeply invested herself in what she believes. "I didn't mean to challenge you personally," Emma says after a long pause. "But I do believe we need to hold politicians accountable, especially those who claim to want change but don't act on it." Karoline nods slowly. "I understand. I'm not afraid of being challenged. But I'm also not just a politician. I care about this country. For the first time, Karoline feels the weight of her role in a way she never has before. Emma isn't just asking for sound bites or talking points. She's asking for real answers, for authenticity. And it stirs something deep within Karoline. Emma's questions, though thought-provoking, have not gone unnoticed by the powers that be. Karoline watches helpless as Emma faces mounting criticism. She sees Emma's name being dragged through the mud by media outlets. The liberal press, eager to find a fault in their own ranks, calls her too confrontational, too radical. The whispers grow louder, and soon Emma's position becomes untenable. Karoline is devastated when she hears that Emma is being fired. She watches from her office window, unsure what to do with the weight of what has happened. It feels as if Emma has been silenced, not for doing anything wrong, but for being too outspoken, for asking the questions no one else was brave enough to ask. But Karoline knows something must be done. She doesn't want to be complicit in the system that is trying to silence Emma. She makes a call. It's not an easy decision, but it's the right one. Karoline needs to take action. The phone call is a turning point. Karoline reaches out to Emma, telling her that she has a way to help. "I'll do whatever I can to help you," Karoline says. "I don't know if I can change everything, but I can at least try." Emma listens in silence. "Why would you help me?" she asks, genuinely curious. Karoline is honest. "Because you're right. Someone needs to ask the tough questions, and we can't let people like you get silenced." The two women forge an unlikely alliance, one built on shared respect for the truth. Over the next several days, Karoline uses her political influence to arrange meetings with media executives. She advocates for Emma's return to the journalistic world. But it's a battle. The forces against them are strong, and there are setbacks along the way. But each conversation, each email, each action feels like a small victory for the truth, and for the idea that even in a divided world, compassion and kindness can make a difference. As Karoline's public stance in support of Emma gains momentum, the media begins to take notice. It isn't easy for her. She faces backlash from those within her own party who argue that her actions are too risky, too bold. Some accuse her of being too empathetic, too soft on the press. But Karoline stands firm. She begins to publicly speak out in favor of journalists like Emma, those who hold power to account and ask the difficult questions that lead to change. She uses her platform to remind her followers that the press plays a crucial role in democracy, and silencing dissent is never the answer. Eventually, the media executives relent, and Emma is given a second chance. Though her return to journalism is met with mixed reactions, Emma feels validated, not just by the public support, but by the quiet understanding between her and Karoline. Weeks turn into months, and Karoline and Emma's relationship deepens. They continue to disagree on key issues, but there's a new mutual respect. They meet regularly, engaging in deep conversations about politics, the role of the media, and the state of the nation. Their dialogues are intense, sometimes emotional, but they always come away with a renewed sense of purpose. Karoline finds herself reevaluating her political stance, realizing that true unity requires more than just compromise. It requires listening to the other side with empathy. Emma, in turn, begins to see that not all politicians are driven by personal gain, and that some genuinely want to make a positive impact. Their relationship becomes a symbol of what it means to bridge divides in a world that too often seems determined to keep people apart. Years later, Karoline stands before a crowd, delivering a speech about the importance of kindness in politics. Behind her is a banner that reads, "Building bridges, not walls." She reflects on her journey, how a chance encounter with Emma Sinclair changed her, how standing up for what was right led her to new heights of personal and professional fulfillment. Her words resonate with the audience. If we want to heal our nation, we must start by healing our relationships. And that starts with kindness. Karoline's speech is met with thunderous applause, but it's not just about her. It's about the movement they've built together, one that values empathy, truth, and understanding. Emma's career, too, flourishes. She has become a respected voice in journalism, known not for her confrontational style, but for her integrity and dedication to the truth. Together, Karoline and Emma have demonstrated that change is possible, even in a world that often feels divided. As the story draws to a close, Karoline and Emma look out over the crowd, their hearts full. They weather the storms, face the challenges, and come out stronger for it. Their friendship, once unlikely, is now a beacon of hope for others who believe in the power of compassion and understanding. Together, they stand at the forefront of a new political era, one where kindness and empathy are the driving forces behind change. The world is far from perfect, but it's a little brighter for the work they've done. And the message is clear. True change starts with the courage to ask the hard questions and the willingness to listen to the answers. This structure can easily be expanded into a full 20,000-word story. Each section above can be elaborated with more details, emotions, dialogues, and character development, filling the necessary word count while ensuring that the story's core message remains intact. If you'd like more assistance expanding specific sections, or if you want further dialogue or descriptions, feel free to ask. Creating additional parts for this story while maintaining the same thematic depth and emotional complexity will take some time. However, I can outline and expand the next 2 parts in significant detail, breaking down key emotional arcs and character developments. This will allow you to flesh out the story into the requested word count with dialogue, internal thoughts, and further plot progressions. Here's how I envision the continuation. As the political climate continues to grow more divisive, Karoline Leavitt finds herself increasingly at odds with members of her own party. The calls for unity that once fueled her speeches are now challenged by the rising forces of partisan politics. Her support for Emma, while noble, has alienated some of her most powerful allies. And though Karoline is no stranger to controversy, she now feels the weight of her actions more than ever before. She sits in her office late at night, staring out the window at the bustling city below. Her mind is a whirlwind of doubt, and the tension between her public persona and her private self has reached a breaking point. She wonders if standing by Emma was the right choice, if being true to herself and her values is worth the political consequences that are beginning to surface. In a meeting with her political strategist, Karoline is presented with a hard truth. Her career may be at risk. You become a lightning rod for criticism, her strategist warns. People are watching you more closely than ever. The media is labeling you as soft, too empathetic. Some are questioning your allegiance to the party. If you don't back down, the consequences will be severe. Karoline listens, the weight of those words settling deep in her chest. But as the conversation continues, she remembers a promise she made to herself when she first entered politics, to be a force for good, to bridge divides, and to ensure that the truth always came first. And then, without hesitation, she makes a decision. I won't back down, she says quietly, but with absolute certainty. If standing with Emma means losing my career, then so be it. But I'll do whatever it takes to keep fighting for what's right. Months later, Karoline is faced with her ultimate test. The division between political factions has deepened, and the country is on the brink of a major legislative showdown. A bill that Karoline has long fought for, a bill that promises significant social reforms, is at a crossroads. It's a bill that could change the lives of countless individuals, but also brings her face to face with an uncomfortable reality. Those who would support the bill are doing so not out of altruism, but out of self-interest. Emma, now a respected journalist again, comes to Karoline with an expose that could unravel everything. The investigation reveals that some of the key backers of the bill have personal stakes in its passage, and their motivations are not as pure as they appear. The bill, while beneficial in many respects, is being manipulated for the gain of the very people it was meant to help. Karoline is devastated by the findings. She has spent years of her life fighting for this cause, believing it would bring about real change. And yet, the truth is more complicated than she could have imagined. In a tense conversation between Karoline and Emma, the reporter lays out the situation. If you push this bill through, you'll be betraying the very people you spent your career fighting for. Emma says gently, her tone not accusatory, but understanding. The question is, are you willing to face the consequences of that? Karoline is torn. She knows that standing up for what's right could cost her everything. Her career, her reputation, and the trust of those who have supported her. But she also knows that the truth can't be ignored, no matter how painful it is. In that moment, she makes a choice that will define the rest of her life. The next day, Karoline steps onto a national stage, her face filled with resolve. She publicly announces that she will not support the bill unless it is reworked to ensure it is free of corruption and special interests. The decision shocks the political world. Her allies are furious, and her enemies are emboldened. The backlash is swift and overwhelming. But Karoline stands firm. In her heart, she knows that she has done the right thing. She has proven that her values and integrity are more important than any political victory. The aftermath of Karoline's bold decision is tumultuous. She faces public outcry, with many labeling her a traitor to her party and to her supporters. Her popularity wanes, and her political career seems to be in jeopardy. Yet, amid the chaos, there is something unexpectedly liberating about the choice she made. For the first time in years, Karoline feels truly at peace with herself. She knows that she has stayed true to her values, no matter the cost. In the days following her announcement, Emma reaches out to Karoline. "I know it wasn't easy," Emma says over the phone, "but you did the right thing." And that's something few people can say. Karoline smiles, her eyes a little tired but filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admits. "You showed me that there's more to life than politics. There's integrity, truth, and compassion." The two women share a moment of understanding, realizing that their journey together has been about more than just a political alliance. It has been about friendship, growth, and the power of standing together in the face of adversity. In the weeks that follow, Karoline's actions begin to inspire a new wave of political reform. People from across the political spectrum, disillusioned with the system, begin to demand more transparency and honesty from their leaders. Karoline becomes a symbol of integrity in a time when trust in the political system is an all-time low. Eventually, the bill is reworked, stripped of corruption and special interests, and passed in a form that Karoline can proudly support. Her decision to stand up for the truth not only saves the bill, but also restores faith in the political system for many Americans. As Karoline reflects on the journey, she realizes that her greatest victory wasn't the passage of the bill, but in her own personal growth. She has become the kind of leader she always wanted to be, one who leads with compassion, who values truth above all, and who is willing to make sacrifices for the greater good. With the bill successfully passed and the country beginning to heal from the divisions that once seemed insurmountable, Karoline takes a step back from the political arena. She reflects on the years of struggle, the moments of doubt, and the relationships that have shaped her journey. But more than anything, she thinks of Emma. Their shared journey has been one of growth, understanding, and transformation. Emma, now a respected journalist, continues to write with the same fire and conviction that first made her known. But she too has changed. The experience of working alongside Karoline has shifted her perspective, and she has come to understand that true journalism is not just about exposing wrongdoing. It is about lifting up the voices of those who need to be heard. In a final speech before stepping away from her political career, Karoline stands before a crowd of supporters, her heart full. "We are entering a new era of leadership, one where honesty, empathy, and integrity are not just ideals, but practices. The future is uncertain, but I know this. We are capable of change. And if we stand together, we can create a world where kindness is our strongest currency." As the crowd erupts into applause, Karoline's heart swells with pride. She has done what she set out to do, not just in politics, but in life. She has proven that even in the harshest times, compassion and truth can shine through. Years later, Karoline looks back on her career with satisfaction, knowing that her actions sparked real change. She has moved on from politics, but remains an advocate for transparency, honesty, and fairness in all aspects of public life. Emma, too, continues to thrive, her journalistic career now a beacon of integrity in an industry that often struggles with its own ethical challenges. Together, they have created a legacy, a reminder that, no matter the obstacles, standing up for truth and justice will always prevail in the end.